the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm Josh Guesman along with Wendy Thomas, and on today's show we're going to go back over the LA Galaxy's defeat to Colorado in the second leg of the Western Conference semifinals. We'll talk about what could have been different and why this game was a perfect explanation of the rest of the year. Then we'll be joined by 442 USA's Scott French to discuss the LA Galaxy's exit interviews, where Scott will tell us what we learned and what we didn't learn from the players and coaches who spoke. And finally, the main portion of the show will be about discussing 2016 and what needs to change for 2017. We got a bunch to get to, so don't go anywhere. You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Now here are your hosts, Josh Guesman and Wendy Thomas. Hello everybody and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Josh Guesman, Miss Wendy Thomas with you once again, back from my wonderful hiatus. Glad to be back here talking some LA Galaxy with you. I wish it was under better circumstances, although I'm sure nobody could possibly blame me for coming back into the country, Wendy, and jinxing the LA Galaxy, right? Nobody could possibly do that.
No one could blame you. That would be like blaming my dog.
Yeah, and who would ever do that?
Who would ever do that? No one would do that.
Yeah, it was your dog's fault that one time, but other than that, I'm sure it wasn't my fault. And like I said, I think earlier on my show earlier in the week, if you want to send me back because you think I'm a bad luck, as long as you pay for it and you'll let me stay there, I'll be happy to go back and join everybody.
You're volunteering to move to Paris?
Yeah, Paris, London, wherever you want to put me, either way. Although my French will have to improve, tenfold if we're going to continue this London talk and what's going to happen with that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Certainly, my return causing some heartache for some people with the LA Galaxy losing in the second leg of the Western Conference semifinals to Colorado. Listen, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on this, Wendy. You and I talked about it beforehand. It's something I'd rather forget, but if you look at the game, it was 120 minutes of boring soccer, followed by probably one of the most boring penalty shootouts that I've ever seen. I mean, it wasn't even an exciting penalty shootout.
No, this was a boring game, and it was boring. I would say the first half had a few moments of interest, but basically after the start of the second half all the way through to the end, it was a bit of a snooze fest. And because you have two teams that are both strong defensively, and they defend. I mean, that's, there's a lot of defensive action that doesn't lead to a lot of excitement. And it was thoroughly disappointing.
Right.
I mean, I was at the StubHub Center with the Galaxy was very nice and invited fans to come and watch it in that American Express Club, which was lovely. Lots of nice big screen TVs. At the beginning, they had like $2 mimosas. It was nice atmosphere. I had fun, but the game was not good. No,
it wasn't exciting. It wasn't worthy of advancing. Although somebody tweeted at me during the game or after the game and said, with as bad as they played in that game, I'm glad they didn't advance because they didn't earn it. And I thought that I can understand that sentiment up to a certain point. But if the Galaxy would have won that penalty shootout, Wendy, you would have taken it, right? Nobody would have argued with it.
Of course, but there is, inside every soccer fan, there is a meritocrat who knows in their heart that you should reward the team that does the best. We were not the best team that day. And so you can't lose and then say, "Oh, nuts." You have to say, well, we lost. We deserve to lose. So it was the correct outcome, and we need to get better.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think that's going to be sort of the theme of the show is that the LA Galaxy need to get better. You look at the starting lineup for the LA Galaxy, and granted, in the playoffs, you expected Alan Gordon to start. You expected Giovanni Dos Santos to start, and you expected Robbie Keane and Steven Gerrard to be on the bench. I mean, it was those were all expected things to happen, and they did, which, by the way, was Bruce saying, this is the best lineup that I have with the players I have, which is scary because you're sitting 2 designated players. So you're wasting, and it's one of the arguments we've had the entire year, Wendy, you're wasting 2 designated player spots on 2 guys who didn't play for half the year.
Yeah, $10 million on the bench there, guys. So I mean, I'm not being unduly critical. I don't want to sound like I am, talking down to or condescending the front office, but this is something that you need to redress in considering who to bring in as a DP next year.
Yeah, it's the most important thing. Actually, there's plenty of most important things. I found it funny, actually. I was like, oh, there's plenty of important things that I'm going to have to figure out here. So that's fine. We can do that. But yeah, it is interesting to look at what the LA Galaxy will have to fix as they go forward here into 2017. But in this game, I find it difficult to find any positives. The LA Galaxy didn't get a shot on goal until the second half. In fact, they had 1 shot in 120 minutes. That shot
Shell Van Dam was a positive.
Well, and he has, I think if you're looking back on 2016, you have to say,
right? That's the positive, guys.
That's it. I mean, I think you're going to find that, Sebastian Lletget playing in the middle was probably a positive.
Sebastian Lletget, Shell Van Dam, Ashley Cole, there are highlights. But I would say, I mean, yeah, from that individual game, so little to take. So little to inspire. I mean, I generally credit at least the work ethic from the LA Galaxy. I don't know if they were tired. I don't know if everyone was just really sick of the season and wanted it to be over. I don't know how morale is, but it was not a winning performance. No. And so therefore we lost.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you would expect to happen. I will, let's tip the hat. The Gashi goal, the Gashi goal was outstanding.
Gorgeous.
It was so pretty.
Unbelievable.
I didn't even get mad. It was one of those goals. How can you get mad at that? It's like there were people, and I will point this out. There were people who were blaming Baggio Husidic for not stepping up to Gashi on the goal, and I'm like, okay, simmer down now. And then there were people, including Bruce Arena, who had some questions of Brian Rowe on the shot as well.
He could not have stopped that goal. I read that comment and I thought he was kidding. I mean, honestly, Bruce's comments sometimes drive me nuts because after the game he said he complimented Steven Gerrard on the way he took the penalty. Steven Gerrard, who was on the bench for the entire game, and then criticized Brian Rowe. I'm like, Bruce, you're smoking some reefer because Brian Rowe could not have stopped that goal. It was a beautiful goal. Yeah. So gorgeous, so well taken.
No, it was, and it was a good strike. If I'm Baggio Husidic, I look at Gashi and go, yeah, dude, go ahead and shoot from there all day long. Have at it. It's
like a strike that Baggio had like a few months ago where he shot it in from 30 yards. It's like, come on, that's a fluky, odd goal. There's the odds, the percentage that's actually going to work is so low. I mean, you're not going to blame a player for not anticipating a goal in that instance.
No, you're not. And I don't blame Baggio Husidic for that goal. I don't blame Brian Rowe for that goal.
It's just a good goal. Yeah. It's a good goal. We got beat. It was a great goal. Good goal.
Yeah, another game in which, and if you want to be perfectly honest, another game in which the LA Galaxy designated players didn't show up. Now, regardless of the fact that 2 of them were on the bench to start with, Giovanni Dos Santos went into ghost mode, which happens to him sometimes. And whether you credit Colorado for playing excellent defense on him and really limiting any connection that he had with Alan Gordon, or doing a good job with any of that stuff, that's fine. You can do that. But you need, and as we've seen in the playoffs, you need your designated players to step up and be designated players, the playmakers that they can be. Giovanni Dos Santos had a good year for the LA Galaxy. I don't want to discount that.
A good year. Yes. Yeah, I mean, Giovanni Dos Santos is like 2 players. He's either in ghost mode or beast mode, and it's, he sometimes plays brilliantly. I'm like, oh, this is the future of the LA Galaxy. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, Giovanni's playing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. That was this game. That was this game.
Me, knock me over with a feather. I had no idea.
That was this game. And I'll be fair. To be fair, not to the same extreme, but Landon Donovan had a air about him as well that he would disappear in games. Now the big thing was
he went out at the half.
Yeah, and he did, and he got injured. He had to go out at the half. The injury bug just really killed any momentum that the LA Galaxy had from the first leg to the second leg. Obviously, you look back and you want to you want to wrap Emmanuel Boateng in some bubble wrap for training. The fact that he got hurt, I think that was the difference in this game. I honestly believe that if Emmanuel Boateng had been healthy, the LA Galaxy are a completely different team.
Maybe.
Because they have something. Now that begs the question, Bruce, why didn't you bring somebody like Raul Mendiola on
Yeah.
at least onto the bench to give you some speedy, small action,
Yeah.
sort of the same as Emmanuel Boateng. But I mean, even
Oh,
that
for sure.
would have been a Hail Mary play in that type of sense. So I'm not disappointed. Nobody had a very good game. Sebastian Lletget played okay. I will say this. I think Steven Gerrard, when he came in, provided some energy to the LA Galaxy and actually got them pointed in the correct direction at one
He's a
point or
smart.
another.
I mean, listen, Steven Gerrard is a really smart, talented, classy player. No one would say that this guy is not good, but you can't build a season around someone who's, in for 45 minutes and then gone for a month, and then it's just, that's just not feasible.
That's it. And then anybody who took a penalty kick basically should be fired.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, the penalties. Woo!
It,
We need to work on that, fellas.
I don't
So
know.
bad.
I don't know if Bruce Arena had a list of people. Clearly, he couldn't put Robbie Keane out there. He said because Keane got injured during
It
the
was
second
just
half.
whoever stepped up. He's just whoever steps up takes it.
And quite honestly, I've watched them take penalty kicks in practice. I would have put my money on Ashley Cole actually putting in a good one. That didn't happen. Jeff Lorenowitz, that didn't happen. Giovanni Dos Santos over the bar. So Steven Gerrard was the hero of the night because he actually got one in.
And his penalty was really sweet.
It was perfect. So
it was perfect. That was a perfectly taken. Good job, Steven Gerrard.
That's his send off. That's his send off.
That was perfect. It was a perfect penalty.
All right, what we're gonna do? I know that was a quick little recap of Colorado. Listen, there weren't a lot of highlights in this game. I don't know that we could talk about it possibly anymore. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and take a quick break. And whenever we get back, I'm going to be joined by Scott French from 442 USA to talk about the LA Galaxy and their exit interviews. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com, and we'll be right back. Corner of the Galaxy. Welcome back to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Josh Guesman, Miss Wendy Thomas with you once again. Wendy's going to take a quick break as I want to make sure I get to something that happened and I wasn't able to cover it, but luckily for us, we have somebody who has been on the show many, many times. Good friend of the show, a great reporter for 442 USA. Please welcome back to the show, Mr. Scott French. Scott, thanks for stopping by, buddy. Certainly appreciate it.
Oh, it's always nice to be here, Josh.
All right, I know we wanted to get into exit interviews. Now, I will preface this as saying that there weren't a lot of interviews that took place, which was kind of surprising to me. A little surprising to you as well?
I don't know. You know, it has the last few years. I mean, it used to be with the exit interviews, you went there and basically you asked for guys and you were channeled one after another.
Right.
And when you're covering it as a regular beat, which I don't do now, so to me, I was really looking for three specific guys. But when you're covering it as a beat, if you're covering it well as a beat, I want to talk to everybody.
Right.
I want to talk to Daniel Steris. I want to talk to Raul Mendiola. I want to talk to Ariel Lassiter. I want to talk to the backup goalkeepers.
Right.
Because it's all, you're getting in touch and just getting set up for the off season and the start of the next season and getting an idea as to what these players want and what their situation is with the team and all of that.
Right.
And the last couple of years, it hasn't been like that. So, I don't know that it's fewer than expected. so much as it's maybe fewer than would have been liked.
Okay, I get you. I didn't want to. I have been part of exit interviews where we've talked to everybody, so I remember that being, sort of the way it was. And like you said, you're not covering
that
it as
was a great time.
We
great era back then.
Back in the day, I feel I'm getting older, Scott. It is happening. I do say things like I remember back whenever I was first covering the Galaxy, but different things. But anyway, so you talk to 4 people. It's 4 good people overall in terms of important people to talk to. So let's start at the very beginning with Bruce Arena and what Mr. Head Coach and General Manager had to say. I imagine the first question, or at least one of the first questions that was asked, was if Bruce was going to be back in 2017.
It was, and while he was not comprehensive on it, he said that he expects to be back.
He also said that,
which is what we figured.
Yeah, it's not a surprise. That is, everybody was sort of going off of that assumption, I think, towards the end of the year, and it was coming back. But he also said something that he wasn't in contract negotiations at the current time. So, I mean, should we read anything into that the LA Galaxy haven't reached out to Bruce to extend that contract yet?
I don't know. Part of it, I think of it as, who runs the contracts for the Galaxy? It's Bruce.
It's Bruce. I know. I
mean, it's like, why do I need to be in negotiations? Basically, I'm just going to sign for the same thing I'm doing now. I got that impression more than anything else.
Okay. All right.
Because why? I mean, can you think of any circumstance in which the club wouldn't want him back? I mean, I can.
I think there are fans who think that way, that Bruce didn't do enough as general manager or as head coach this year and the year before to really earn his way back. I don't think that way. I think that you give Bruce this next year to do whatever he wants to do, and I honestly think 2017 could be it for him.
The spectrum of fan opinion runs the gamut and is not off, and that gamut is rarely subscribed to by those closest to the team or those who cover the team. That's all I'll say.
There's definitely something there. All right, so Bruce, I think, was also asked about the season as a whole. Can you give us sort of what he was saying?
His biggest thing was, it was just very difficult. It was a difficult season because you brought in players who had to adapt. And then you started dealing with injuries, and it was that you lost so many key guys: Robbie Keane, Steven Gerrard,
right,
Jossie Zardes. These guys are missing half the year because of injury.
Right.
And when you've and Nigel de Jong leaving in August. I mean, the Galaxy were although I liked what the Galaxy did after de Jong left. I love Leggett in the position he's in now.
Right.
De Jong brought something and brought an intimidation factor that the Galaxy didn't have when he was gone. So when you throw all that together, he's saying, it was hard to get continuity going. That was our biggest thing. It's hard to get continuity going. And it's true. And then, you look at the Galaxy, and how many times did you watch them this year where you said, man, they're playing really, really well? I mean, there were a handful.
Right.
But not as many as in most years. And then at the end of the year, they got the 4th best attack, the 2nd best defense, the 2nd best goal difference, the 2nd best road record. Only one team loses fewer games at home. The statistics all show that, hey, they did well. The eye test says, they didn't really do that well. And what that says is how much talent there really was here.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, you look at it, you look at the stats, and I agree with you. I looked at all those, and I said, just judging those stats, it was actually a pretty good year. Now, for the LA Galaxy, I think Chris Klein, most of the LA Galaxy front office, even Brendan Hand, whenever I think he and I were having a discussion as well, is that, without an MLS Cup, that the season is a failure for the LA Galaxy in terms of how they would like to operate. And so I understand that. But Bruce Arena also said something that I thought was interesting, which was that he said, if you expect to win a cup every single year, that's a way to a quick death or a way to the grave quickly.
Basically, yeah. And it's true because you always aim for that, but if you expect it, then he's saying, really, why are you in this game? I mean,
yeah,
it's you have to be somewhat realistic. And the Galaxy can be disappointed, but who's really disappointed? FC Dallas, New York Red Bulls. These teams were better than the Galaxy. These teams deserved a chance at winning the Cup, much more so than the Galaxy did, and they're both out. Same time as the Galaxy is.
Yep.
So you know what? This wasn't a great year. It was a little bit of a disappointing year, but there were also a lot of pluses, and that's how it is. You're in a league that has great parity, that has greater parity now than it did even 3 and 4 years ago when the Galaxy were winning championships. And winning championships is hard.
I was going to say, that's you stole my line. Winning championships is hard, period. That's it. All right, let's move on to Landon Donovan. Mr. 50-50, according to Bruce Arena, whether or not Landon Donovan would be back. What did Landon have to say? What was his mindset?
Well, that he's got to have some conversations with the club, with his wife, with those close to him, and figure out what he wants and what the club wants. But he had a blast this year. He said he really had fun, which was something that he wasn't having in 2014 before he retired. And I think we've seen this a couple of times because, when he stepped away from the game, and I don't recall what year it was, but it was 2014, maybe
2014. Oh, you mean whenever he stepped out? I think it was at the beginning of the year of 2014, whenever he took that hiatus.
I thought it might have been 2013 because it impacted. Yeah, I think it was more like 13 because all the years run together. They honestly do. Because I think that was what ended up costing him the spot in the World Cup, was that he had stepped away. I don't think Jurgen could wrap his head around the fact that a player would step away in the middle of his career. And Landon, those of us who know Landon's wired differently from every other professional athlete I've ever covered.
Yes.
I mean, he loves the game, but his life is not the game. And so many players and so many athletes, their life is the game. And Landon's hasn't been. And when he's overly stressed, because I guess he felt suffocated.
Right.
And when he steps away and is able to find space, and he's able to come back and be a better player. And that's part of what happened here. He was able to come back and be we saw how good he got in the short amount of time he was here. I mean, he's still in preseason form.
Right.
And the way he was meshing with Dos Santos and just, I mean, he wasn't in shape at the time, but just his move on his first touches in Kansas City leading to that goal. I mean, we were seeing some vintage Landon mixed in the middle there.
Right.
And I think it's because he was comfortable. He was happy. He wasn't stressed. He didn't feel like it was all on his shoulders. And I think that was a much better Landon. So it's possible,
Yes.
it could happen. If he wants to come back and he enjoys it, it can. But, maybe the wife says, "Hey, Landon,
we got a kid here. That's it. You're staying home. You said you were going to stay home. Game over."
Yeah, I mean, as you said, anyone who's ever been married knows that they have the biggest say in what goes on.
That's right. That's how it goes. All right, so we go from Landon, who I would say is more likely to come back than not. That's just my prognostication. That's not based on anything.
Enough.
I just have a feeling that maybe 60-40 he's coming back. All right, let's go to Giassi Zardes, injured obviously in the second half of the season. Just unfortunate. It never seemed like he could. It was always going to be a tough timeline to get him back for any type of play in this season. So what did Giassi Zardes have to say?
Well, it was a little bit unfortunate for him that the Galaxy went out because the day that we were talking, Wednesday, was supposed to be his first day back on the field actually training.
Right.
So he's the way he's looking at it is that now, he was pushing himself to get back, and now he can stop pushing. He can take it easy and make sure that he's ready come January when the national team camp begins.
Right.
But hasn't pushed himself so much that he aggravates the injury in some way.
Yeah, that's important.
So that's basically his point. And we talked to him a little bit about what his role might be next season. And of course, he talked about playing the wing, I play up front, that type of thing. So we kind of got a little bit more focused on the idea of him as the target forward because Robbie Keane doesn't fit as a target forward in this formation. If you're going to play this formation, Keane doesn't fit.
Right.
Which means you got to find someone who does. And Alan Gordon fits, and we saw that during this thing. But you don't build your team around a 35-year-old forward. You build it around the mid-20 kid who scored 18 goals, including playoffs or whatever it was a couple of years ago.
Right.
So, Zardes as the target just seems to make the most sense for this team, barring bringing in some target from outside. And it sounds like he just would relish that role. He loves playing up top. That's his favorite place to play.
Right.
He felt that he really has improved his game in terms of being able to hold the ball and combine and so forth. Not that those were weaknesses before. and he's. I think that it's something that would really do the Galaxy well if they chose to go in that direction. I mean, the biggest question of this offseason is Robbie Keane back or not? And
Yes.
here's one of the things on the side of maybe not.
Yeah, and I agree. If you look at building blocks, Giovanni Dos Santos, Gyasi Zardes seem to be pretty good building blocks if that's the way that you want to go, which I think perhaps the Galaxy might. All right, let's get quickly to the last person, possibly one of the highest priorities, or at least I have him as the highest priority in the offseason, Jelle Van Dam, making sure that he is in LA Galaxy colors for next year in 2017. Possibly, well, I'll be honest. You and I have talked, Scott. I think he was the MVP of the LA Galaxy this year without a doubt.
Oh, unquestionably, he was the MVP of the Galaxy. I don't care what the fan vote said. I mean, that's a fan vote. That's a popularity contest. No question that Van Dam was the MVP of the team. In fact, the only other guy who really is in the conversation for MVP of the team is Nigel de Jong, and he wasn't there the last 2 months. So you're not even gonna look at him. Those were the only real candidates for MVP this year.
And I think I've taken a fairly good consensus of the press box, and I think we agree mostly on that. So I don't want to put words in every reporter's mouth, but if the press would have voted on it as had been customary up to a certain point, Jelle Van Dam would have walked away with Defender of the Year and Player of the Year for the LA Galaxy.
Oh, yeah, without question he would have. In fact, he would have won in a landslide. I don't think it would have been unanimous. Or it never is.
No,
but,
it wouldn't have been.
Unquestionably, he would have won the team MVP award.
All right, so is he back with the LA Galaxy, and is that a question that got asked?
Well, here's the thing. His contract runs through next year, so he's under contract.
Right.
But the Galaxy is talking to him. They want to restructure the contract. My guess is they want to go a little longer term, maybe reward him with a little extra money.
Right.
And he says, I really enjoyed myself here.
Right.
I love it here. The life off the field is great. I like playing with this team. And I think the Galaxy likes me. And Bruce made it clear how much the Galaxy likes Jelle, and felt that Jelle, he had been captain for 5 years at the Standard Liège.
Yeah, I think so.
And now here he is. And Bruce thinks that he grew as a captain this year during the season, especially when later in the season they were using him as captain with the Keenan Gerrard out.
Right.
And you can just see how well he and Steres played together. And, Steres was one of the, when you look at the real pluses to the season, Steres is one of the hugest pluses to the season because he was good.
Right.
And for a first-year defender, he had no right to be as good as he was. And how much of that is playing alongside of Van Dam, who's this defender who has such good instinct and such great foot skills and is really, he's nimble on his feet. A lot of big guys aren't, and he's just so nimble on his feet. So he can do things that other center backs can't. And so you got Steres who's learning alongside a guy like that, and that just increases the dimensions in what Steres can do.
Yeah.
And, he's definitely someone the Galaxy wants back. He wants to come back.
This gets done.
They're just talking contract now. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, this gets done. I mean, this isn't really a question for me. I think a lot of people are thinking they're going to have to throw designated player money at him. I don't think that that's the case. But I do think they're going to give him a raise. I think they're going to restructure that contract, possibly keep him here even longer, which would probably be a good idea for the LA Galaxy to build around up to a certain point. He's not the youngest guy. He's not the oldest guy either. He's a guy you want on this team. He needs to come back.
He's at an age, though, where defenders are still in their prime.
Right.
If he were a forward, you'd say he was old.
Right.
As a center back, he's in his prime.
All right. So anything else that you want to bring up about anybody before we let you go here?
I don't know. You want to be more specific?
No, like any players that you talked to, any other highlights that you wanted to...
Well, we didn't really talk to any other players because
right.
those were the only ones that we saw. So really, I mean, those are the only guys I've talked to since the home game here.
Yeah.
So not necessarily in that sense. I don't know. For me, it really comes down to, I mean, the real topic is, does King come back or not? I could see it going either way. I can see arguments either way that makes sense. Van Dam's position, we didn't talk specifically about King, but his feeling was that you bring back as many of the guys from this team as you can.
Okay.
You know, we've got a great nucleus here. This is a team that can win. Bring back as many of them as you can, and then you add to that group to make it stronger. And you know, the way I read it is that means bringing Keane back, because we know Gerrard isn't coming back, whether we know that or not. We know that he's not coming back. But Gerrard leaving is, you know, and I think Gerrard was terrific when he was healthy. But Gerrard leaving doesn't change the complexion of the Galaxy. They just, you know, Dos Santos is stepping into that role really now. But Keane leaving changes the personality of the Galaxy, and that's what the Galaxy have to decide. Do we continue on with what we've been doing and try to win another championship with it, or do we now, before it goes real sour, make the change and build toward the future? And so that's the topic of conversation. That's what we'll be debating for the next couple months. So if it takes that long to make these decisions, and really next year, I suppose that's what we'll be looking at either way that it goes and seeing if it works.
Yeah, it should be interesting. All right, if you want to follow Scott on Twitter, at Scott J. French, 442USA Scott French. Scott, thanks for stopping by as always, and I'm sure that we will talk to you in the off-season because the off-season has started now, and that means that we will be talking all the way until the preseason, and then the preseason will lead into the season, and then somehow we end up back here again in the off-season. So that's how it works, right?
Well, you know, the only real off-season there is in MLS is Christmas and New Year's week.
That's it.
I mean, for everyone who works in the league and for everyone who covers it and all of that stuff. I mean, as soon as the season's over, that, you know, especially this year with an expansion draft.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's gonna get pretty crazy.
It should be. All right, Scott, we'll talk to you later. All right, thanks.
Josh, take care.
All right, there's Scott J. French, 442USA Scott French. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. Make sure you read all of his wonderful stuff. Whenever I get back, Wendy's going to join me back again. We still have a bunch to get to, a lot to talk about this team, so don't go anywhere. You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com.
Ready for some more Corner of the Galaxy? Don't forget to head over to the website for all the latest podcasts, news, and more. Visit us online at cornerofthegalaxy.com.
Hey, this is Chris. This is Eddie.
This is Jason.
And we're from Back Pocket Memory, and you're listening to Corner of the Galaxy.
Welcome back to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Josh Guesman, Wendy Thomas, back with you once again. Still a lot to get to. Really want to dive into this LA Galaxy roster and possibly what it could look like, or at least who it could be missing in 2017. And listen, I've been digging around, Wendy. I've been doing some phone calls. I've been texting. I've been talking. I think there's going to be significant movement in this offseason to the what I will call the older core of this team. I think could be gone, and also I think some of the younger players on this that we have seen but haven't performed could also be gone. So we're going to go over the roster. That's really where we start. We're going to go, I think, Wendy, just name by name. I mean, there's no order to this. There's no good way of doing this.
Well, do you want to start? Because I have grades for every player for their season. Do you want to start with the worst players and go up, or like maybe the most important players, or the players you want to keep? Like, what do you want? How do you want to start?
I was going to go alphabetical and just like throw it down. So that way there's no like bias towards this or anything like that. Okay, so so I'm going to go just from the very top, and we'll start with Emmanuel Boateng. And what did you think of Emmanuel Boateng? If you want to give him a grade, you can, and whether or not he will be around in 2017.
Emma Boateng, I gave a B+ for the LA Galaxy season. He was, I think, a positive surprise of all of our acquisitions. He's relatively cheap at $100,000 a year amongst LA Galaxy players. He did put in a lot of minutes. And I think that against certain teams, he can be a very potent weapon. As you could see, like when we played RSL never quite figured out Emmanuel Boateng. He was the RSL killer this year. Yeah. And I think that was really a nice surprise. So I would say keep him, definitely.
Yeah, there's no question in my mind that Emmanuel Boateng is part of this 2017 team. I'm with you. Consistency for him was always going to be difficult. This was his first, real full season with getting probably this many minutes. But he did well. He just needs to get consistent. We need to see his ability to change games, not just against RSL, but against other teams as well. And so, whatever that ends up being, like I said in the last segment, Wendy, I thought that if you had Emmanuel Boateng, you beat Colorado. I really think it's that simple. So, you need him back on this team. That's a good one. Let's go to the next player. Ashley Cole, 35-year-old Ashley Cole.
Fascinating. Well, because the thing is, most people, maybe some people are unaware that Roma financed a lot of Ashley Cole's salary such that he was able to play for the LA Galaxy for $300,000 a year. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have been able to get him.
Right.
So the issue is, I think actually I gave him an A for the season. I thought he was one of our very best players this year. He played a ton of minutes. I want to know what his regimen is, because for a 35-year-old, he played constantly. He played really well. He's a very smart player. But given the fact that I don't think there's any way he returns for $300,000 a year, there's going to be a financial impasse such that I doubt that he will be back. That being said, I think he was great this season.
I think that if you are a person who complains about Robbie Keane and what happened to him this year, and you complain about maybe even Steven Gerrard and what happened to him this year, even though that started last year, that you can't keep Ashley Cole at 36 years old for 2017. We've gone past the point where we are able to predict when these guys are going to break down. Granted, I agree with you. A on the season. One of the best players for the LA Galaxy. Financially, yes, it could be an issue to keep him. Maybe $300,000 keeps him. Maybe that Roman money carries over. Because basically they just paid him to terminate the contract. He got a lump sum. That's how that works. So maybe he's happy living in Los Angeles and wants to stay. He was a quiet guy in the locker room overall. I think you could keep him. But I think that Dave Romney, quite honestly, is maybe his backup, which has been told to me by some people. And that if you want to see this team get younger, Ashley Cole's a guy you say goodbye to. Because you don't know. It's if you keep him and his
go either way. I think that this one's a toss-up. I don't know whether LA Galaxy is going to keep him or not keep him. I would probably be okay either way. That being said, if you gave me my choice, I'd like to have him back.
Yeah, and I understand that. I'm going to say that. I will say that I think the LA Galaxy will try to bring him back in 2017. I would not. For me, he's off the team just because of his age, and I'm not going to risk putting $300,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you for a defender in Major League Soccer, I'm not going to risk that on a guy whose body could start to break down. Robbie Keane had a great year last year.
I know.
And
I know.
And
It's
how do
so
you not
crazy.
sign him for this year? And then what happens this year is he falls apart.
So crazy.
So-
But I mean, this is not a DP. There's a difference between someone earning
Correct.
$5 million a year and someone earning $300,000.
Correct. I agree with that. Okay, so Ashley Cole, whether or not he stays, I think the Galaxy will try. I don't think if he's on my team, he stays. AJ De La Garza, this one will be a lot more interesting than I think people will think. Go ahead.
Well, of course, okay, he wasn't played as much as he should because he must have done something to Bruce or some horrible thing to Bruce. He has like a voodoo doll of Bruce in his locker or something because he isn't getting played as much as he should. He should have been playing either as right back or center back the entire season.
Right.
I would keep him.
Right.
I gave him a B in the season because he needed to play more in order to, you have to take into account how many minutes a person can actually play. But I would bring him back. I mean, he's the original G. He's been with the Galaxy longer than any other player. He's, we get rid of all these players, Juninho and Omar, all these players, like, we have to keep.
You have to keep AJ.
He has, like, the soul of the team inside of them.
Yeah, okay. Don't hate me. AJ De La Garza's gone. I don't think he comes back. And I... This is my thinking. This is my thinking on this. That you can't pay him more money because he's making, what, 220, 225? Him and Robbie Rogers make exactly the same money, basically. In my mind, they make exactly the same money. So you can't give him more money because that turns him into somebody like Sean Franklin, who eventually you had to get rid of because salary cap just wouldn't let you keep him, right? It was one of those. So AJ, if you give him more money, you're basically limiting him staying with you anyway. So you can't give him more money. The only thing you can do to make him happy is let him play. And Bruce Arena has picked Robbie Rogers over him.
That makes no sense.
I
Okay,
know.
Robbie Rogers earns $220, AJ earns $225. They
Right.
earn the exact same salaries, and AJ is a better player. I don't understand.
I agree, and I agree with you, and I don't disagree. But you have to keep AJ happy. I think AJ would like to move on if he's going to be behind Robbie Rogers. He wants to move on, right? And if you get rid of, here's another thing that I think makes a lot of sense, which I would do if I was Bruce, is that I would say adios to Ashley Cole, and you move Robbie Rogers back to left back, and you move AJ De La Garza out to right.
Okay,
You put Stairs and
so
Hilden
I
in.
changed my mind. I want to do that.
That's what-
Ashley Cole is 35, and if he's only going to have a season left, maybe.
Right.
Then if we have to do that, I want to keep AJ. Move Robbie to the left. If for whatever reason Bruce is in love with Robbie Rogers,
Right.
and then AJ on the right.
Yeah, AJ De La Garza is probably not on this team in 2017, which breaks my heart. I know. There's lots of people who do that. Okay. Anyway, we'll continue. I want to go to the next one. This one will be quick. Clement Diop came up. He's obviously the second.
Keep him.
He's fine. Second string goalkeeper. He's going to back up Brian Rowe. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. Okay. Landon Donovan.
Keep him.
Keep him.
I mean,
Keep him.
listen, I gave him a B plus, but if he had played more minutes, I would have given an A minus or an A. I mean, he was one of our best players for the minutes that he played.
Right.
And he played like a crazy. I can't believe he had 3 90-minute games in 1 week's time after taking 2 years off. I cannot believe the man is a physical freak. But I mean, I never want to hear complaints about fitness from any player ever again because this is just ridiculous. Like that he can get fit like that.
No, I agree.
He contributed enormously, so I want to keep him.
And there's no problems with that. Landon Donovan should stay. It's a matter of money, matter of whether or not he wants to come back. I think he will be back, as I said in the interview with Scott. For me, I'm leaning towards Landon coming back. It seems like that's the case. I think Landon comes back. So in 2017, Landon Donovan will be there. Giovanni Dos Santos, this isn't hard. You can give him a grade. He's going to be back in 2017.
I gave him a B for the year
That's
because... You know, he's I told you, he's Ghost Monster Beast Mode. I don't know which way he's going to go, but he is coming back, so there's no point in really talking about it.
No, he's coming back. And if you give him a B and you give AJ De La Garza a B, I feel like both of these guys were in group projects and the other people didn't do some of their work. And so that's why they get a B, because AJ would have gotten an A if he probably would have played. Giovanni Dos Santos.
And if he was more consistent and performing, then Giovanni Dos Santos would get an A because obviously.
If Robbie Keane isn't on the field with Giovanni Dos Santos, maybe Gio is better. So that's why it goes. Okay, Rafael Garcia, 25 years old, a guy who saw some time in U.S. Open Cup, has seen a lot of play with LA Galaxy too. For me, and I'll just start with this. So for me, Rafa Garcia does not make it back in 2017, which I don't like because I really love his work rate. I love his passion for the team. He's like one of those true Galaxy players, like AJ De La Garza, who you root for. But he's not getting the playing time. I don't know what they're waiting for in terms of developing him. LA Galaxy 2 probably doesn't do him any good anymore. You probably say adios to Rafa, which hurts me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, at $75,000 a year, I don't really have a preference. Like,
Right.
whatever they do is okay. I like him a lot, like in terms of his work rate and stuff. But yeah, I mean, if he wants to move on, or I mean, whatever happens, it's okay.
Yeah, and that's sort of I think that's it. All right, we get to Steven Gerrard, which is one of the questions. Now, granted,
He's gone.
he's gone. Well, you heard
can't-
Scott.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is that, like, when he played, there were games where Steven Gerrard was our best player.
Absolutely,
Okay?
yes.
Where he played in games, you're like, he was the game changer. He made it. But then he's gone for months, and I don't know. I mean,
He's
it's
injured.
like so confounding because he's clearly capable of being a brilliant player, but then he gets injured and he's gone, and I don't know where he is. He's just injured. He sprains his ankle. I have no idea. He just disappears. So it's hard to evaluate someone who can both be your best player and that yet somehow disappears. So
he gets an incomplete. And
and
he's gone.
He's gone.
Yeah, I heard that I think Scott sort of said that everybody's sort of assuming, and we know he's gone, except that we don't know he's gone. It's not official. You heard Bruce Arena say that perhaps he'd want him back. I said on Twitter and on Facebook, just to sort of do it, if you wanted to bring Robbie Keane and Steven Gerrard back, and I said that's great. There's $120,000 they can split however they want to come back, and that would be obviously they would never come back for that. I don't expect Steven Gerrard to come back. There's absolutely, that's a 0%. Chance of him coming back, so that's not happening.
So that means a new DP, you guys.
Yeah, I think he already said goodbye to everybody. I think he's already on his way out.
That's fine. We can all thank you, Steven Gerrard. Bye.
Excellent penalty kick, Steven Gerrard. Thank you very much.
Penalty kick.
All right, Alan Gordon. This one is interesting. 35 years old.
He earns too much money. $175,000. That's too much money.
And he was injured for a lot of this year.
Mm-hmm.
He's 35. He's a guy who doesn't take it easy on his body. So I don't know how you can keep Alan Gordon. Plus, if I don't, not getting too far ahead of us, there's already a replacement for Alan Gordon. It's Jack McBean.
How awesome. Is he coming back from Coventry City?
He will be coming back. I imagine
Okay,
that's the thing. He'll be back basically for preseason for the LA Galaxy. So whenever that happens,
great.
yeah.
Great.
And he's getting first team minutes now. Jack McBean is just started and played 90 minutes in a 4-2 win for Coventry City. So a team that couldn't score goals. I heard from a source that Jack McBean had at least made passes in each one of the 4 goals that sort of helped in the build-up. So he was making smart choices, doing good, and that I think he's feeling pretty good about himself. So anyway, I think that's why Alan Gordon doesn't come back. He could be one of those last-minute sort of roster additions, Wendy, where it's sort of like Bruce throws him on because he has a roster spot and he's only going to take up like $70,000 or something. So, but
listen, he was called up to the U.S. men's national team this week. Maybe there isn't that many target forwards in the world. I don't know.
I don't know either. Here's another interesting one. A younger guy. He's not that old. A guy who I definitely could see either coming back or going. With Alan Gordon not going to be on the team in 2017, Bazio Husidic very well could remain on this team because he covers so many positions and he doesn't do any of them very bad.
Bruce loves Bazio Husidic. He loves him. Loves
right.
Bazio Husidic.
Bulletproof Bazio.
I understand what you're saying. He's such a utility player. He can play almost any position on the field.
Right.
So I guess there is utility in keeping him, I suppose. And also that I think just real pragmatically, I think Bruce Arena loves the guy. I think he's coming back.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me if he came back. I do think that there's going to be a decision between Bazio Husidic and Jeff Larenowitz. I don't think you're going to be able to keep both of them.
Well, Baggio's 150 and Jeff earns 175. So
and Baggio's younger, but I think Jeff is probably the better defensive midfielder, which is what position we needed him at.
Yeah,
but again,
we don't have any. We don't have defensive.
No, we don't. So anyway, okay, we'll go from Bazio Husidic, who very well. That's sort of 50-50 for me. I don't really know how it goes. I wouldn't be surprised if he's back. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Bradford Jamieson IV is gonna be back. That's okay. I think that.
What about the concussion situation?
Yeah, I mean he's had a lot. There's absolutely no questions, but he's 20 years old. Until those take him out of the game, which by the way, he's had a bunch of them.
I know. I'm really. Oh my god.
Eventually, that's a decision that he and his family are going to have to make about whether or not he continues to play. But at 20 years old, he still has. He's one of the brighter spots on LA Galaxy 2. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
A team that didn't have that many great players this year. Bradford Jamieson IV was decent. So I have no problems with him. So I don't think you jettison him. It's about his health. You'll keep him. Plus, he's a homegrown player, so you don't really have to worry about any.
No
so,
roster money.
But the good news is that we now get to Robbie Keane, the biggest decision the LA Galaxy will have to make in the offseason. He's 36 years old.
It's a pretty simple equation because you definitely can't give him a DP contract because his performance this year doesn't justify it, and he won't accept anything less than a DP contract, and therefore he goes.
I don't know that he would accept anything as a DP under a DP contract. I think that there might be some utility in having him on the team still, but I'd be perfectly fine with not having him on the team. I will say this, if you can bring him back for not a DP contract, he takes the job as the super sub, is able to fill in when Giovanni Dos Santos is, away with the Mexican national team, or is maybe gets injured and he can fill in those roles. I might be okay with him saying. Plus, I'd really like to get a chance to say goodbye to Robbie Keane because he deserves a send-off.
I am of two minds about it because on the one hand, I feel like the team could really use his leadership, the way he mentors players and really gets on their backs and makes them work hard and yells at them and, really rides at his other team members. On the other hand, he's an extremely proud human being. And him sitting on the bench watching other people play, when in his mind he's thinking to himself, I could do this. I should be in the field.
Right.
Like, do you want to invoke the wrath of the Irishman inside of him? In order to gain all that, great ability that he has to lead the team and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's interesting. As you heard Scott French say, the locker room changes significantly without Robbie Keane. Now, I will say this here. I think that he may have been more of a negative impact on the locker room than a positive one. So he would have to be okay and right in his mind to come back for the LA Galaxy and be effective. And I don't know that happens. You can't
bring a player back who's like resenting the other players and is feeling sort of, all this animus about the team. You can't. That's sort of toxic.
Yeah, it is, and it could be. So, Robbie Keane, I don't think he comes back. I think this is it. So, 2017, I hope that we get a chance to say goodbye.
2 new DPs.
That's right. That's right. Even if you do get Robbie Keane back, he's not going to be a designated player. So that's another question you have. Dan Kennedy not coming back. There's no question about that. We don't even have to spend any time on that one. All right. Jeff Larenowitz, 33 years old. I think an underrated player. I actually give him like a B+ this year for what Jeff Larenowitz can do. Jeff did a great job for the Galaxy stepping in for Nigel de Jong whenever Nigel left. I mean, he really did. He held it together for the Galaxy. Now, that's as good as you're going to get from him.
Yeah, because next year he's going to be 34 and he's earning $175,000 a year. So I would say that at his current price, you do not bring him back.
Yeah, it would be. Would not be surprised if Jeff Larenowitz doesn't stay. And if he doesn't stay, I think Baggio does. So that's sort of the flip of the coin there. So I think Baggio stays, Jeff Larenowitz goes. That's fine. Ariel Lassiter, a guy
keep him.
Yeah, you're going to keep him. But here's the, we talk about expansion drafts and all this stuff. This is a guy who has to be protected. He's not a homegrown player.
Yeah.
All right. Giassi Zardes, by the way, is also a homegrown player, but will need to be protected. I know we'll go over expansion draft and all that stuff. So, but Ariel Lassiter, 22 years old, goal puppy, scoring good for LA Galaxy 2. One of the few bright spots on LA Galaxy 2 this year. It's a guy who you can count on to probably get some first-team minutes next year. I don't think he's, an everyday starter right now for the LA Galaxy, but at 22, you keep him if you can. If they don't protect him, somebody else may pick him up. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. All right, we'll go on to Leonardo, 28.
Dump him. Dump him. He earns $160,000 a year, and I don't know what he did this year.
He did Leonardo things. Leonardo is still one of those players who we keep saying that he won't be back every year.
Oh, please, Lord Almighty, let this be the year.
So I think this could be the year. I think in 2017, the LA Galaxy looking to get a little bit younger. Leonardo could go away, which is why you might still want to keep AJ De La Garza and Robbie Rogers. Because
please, let's keep AJ De La Garza, please.
It'll be interesting to see. I still don't. I'm very. What is it? Bearish. I'm very bearish on AJ De La Garza right now staying. So AJ away with Guam right now, just in case you're keeping track. All right, we got some more here, but let's try to speed it up just a little bit. Sebastian Lletget stays.
Love him.
Yeah, we know all about it.
And play him as a central midfielder.
Right. So and that's fine. I have no problems with that. Go find him a partner as a designated player and find a winger as a designated player.
Okay. Find Lletget, a partner as a designated player who plays well with him as a central midfield, and then get a winger for your other designated player. Problems solved.
There you go. We're done. We fixed everything. Mike
fixed the LA Galaxy.
Okay, Mike McGee, 32 years old. Played
at his current price now. $250,000 a year.
Too much. Yeah, Mike.
Too
It's tough.
much. Too much.
He will be another player just like Alan Gordon, that if Bruce has a roster spot and some cash and Mike wants to come back.
I would love to keep him again for this whole leadership issue. He is a leader in the locker room.
And I like the guy. He's a good guy.
Everyone likes him. If we can keep him, I'd love to keep him for $250,000. I don't know if I don't see that.
I don't think Mike McGee is on this team in 2017. That's my take on it. All right, we go to Jack McBean. You're keeping him. He's 21 years old, away with Coventry City on loan. He will be back. He will be your replacement for Alan Gordon. That's why you don't keep Alan Gordon, because Jack McBean is coming back. Jack is 6 foot, has the hold-up play of Alan Gordon, is better with his feet, is probably a better scorer. Yeah, and defends well. He's what you want. Homegrown player, you keep him. Absolutely. So that's not we don't even have to talk about that one. Raul Mendiola. Keep him. 22 years old. Young core. Keep him.
Love him. Creative. One of the very few real creative players we have.
He needs to get more consistent. He plays like a bigger player, which is what I like, but he needs to get a little more physical. He's a tiny guy, but I really like him.
Lots of energy. Lots of creativity. I like it.
Robbie Rogers. 29.
See, if it was up to me, based on his performance this year and the fact that he earns $220,000 a year, I don't know. I mean, he played a ton of minutes, but he also was injured. I really don't think he had a good year.
I don't think he had a good year either. He covers a lot of spots. I don't think there's this part of me that says that for some reason that AJ and Robbie could both go away, which sounds crazy.
What? Then who are your fullbacks?
Yeah, I know. That's where it sort of gets a little crazy. Well, you'd keep Ashley Cole. You'd bring in Dave Romney. It's not a great idea. I don't like it.
No, I don't.
But I'm just.
That's why we keep AJ.
Well, see, this is the problem. It's one of those weird things. Bruce kept going with Robbie Rogers. How do you keep AJ?
It makes no sense.
No.
It makes no sense.
I know.
It makes any sense.
Robbie Rogers probably stays with this team. It doesn't make any sense to me otherwise to not have him. And if Bruce likes him so much, then he'll want to keep him. So Robbie Rogers probably outlasts AJ De La Garza, which again, riots in the street. I know. We'll continue. Don't think about it too much. These are guesses. Yes, there's some educated guessing going on from my side and Wendy's side. I have talked to people about some of these, so if I'm saying something, listen to it a little bit. But nothing's set in stone. All right. Dave Romney, you're going to keep. He's apparently
cheap.
Very
cheap.
Yeah, and the left back of the future is what I've been hearing. Okay, whether or not that's true.
He's not that good, but I mean,
he can be fine. He can be fine. Brian Rowe is your starting number 1 goalkeeper.
Keep him.
That's easy. And he played well this year.
Played really well, and he's super cheap.
He needs to get better. But he played well.
He needs to get better, but he did play well, and he is super cheap.
Okay, there you go. Oscar Sorto.
I have no idea. He played 0 minutes in MLS this year. I have no idea.
Homegrown player. You probably keep him because he's a homegrown player, but he's got to do something soon because he had a stagnant year at LA Galaxy too. He was not one of those players who I would say is ready to come up, so don't expect that to happen. All right. Somebody in our chat room just said that AJ leaving is worse than the Trump victory.
Okay, people. Let's
keep it in perspective. Let's keep it in perspective. All right, let's go to Daniel Steres. You're keeping him.
Daniel Steres, I really am of two minds about because I actually don't think that he's a super great center back. I don't think he reads the game well, but he's so cheap on a per minute basis. He earned less than any other player on the team, and he played the most minutes. He played 2,656 minutes for the LA Galaxy, which comes out to $23 per minute.
Wow.
Versus Steven Gerrard's incredible $4,024 per minute. And so, I've decided Daniel Steres is like when you go to Taco Bell and you order off the dollar menu. I mean, you can say, yeah, it's not a great burrito, but you did order it off the dollar menu.
And it was delicious.
And it's like, so, you can't really complain about it.
And he's
obviously tough as nails and incredibly sturdy to be able to play, basically more minutes than any other player, game after game after game. So even though I actually don't think he's that sharp of a defender, you keep him.
The what is that the Audi index that they do? Is that what they did after the Colorado game? He was the LA Galaxy's leading. Actually, he was the game's leading player, leading points.
I know, it's so odd. I mean, he's obviously just can play forever and is really, really tough.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, it is. All right, so you're keeping him. He's going to be on the team in 2017. Yellow Van Dam, we've already talked about. The LA Galaxy
must keep him.
Yeah, must. Number one,
must.
You do not, and I repeat, you do not need to designate a player to this guy. You do not need to do that.
All right, well, if you say so. I mean, you TAM him then.
You heard Scott French tell you he's already under contract for next year, but the LA Galaxy are going to sweeten that contract, so they're going to give him more money. But
more money. I gave him. He was our best player this year by far. A+ season for Jelle Van Damme. You must bring him back.
Yeah, it's the number one priority. It has to happen quickly. You do that, you start putting the pieces all around it. Jose Villarreal should not be on this team in 2017. I'm done waiting.
Injury prone, right?
Injury prone. He had plenty of time in LA Galaxy 2 to show me something. I watched a ton of LA Galaxy 2 games this year, Wendy. He didn't do anything for me. And for a guy who everybody uses as a crutch, this is how I know you don't pay attention to the Galaxy. When you call for Jose Villarreal and say, well, we need young players. We need Jose Villarreal. No.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. You need Jaime Villarreal. That's who you need. His brother is the...
Jaime Villarreal a lot. That kid's good.
No, he is good, and he's the better of the Villarreals.
They're both good, but I mean...
This is what
I don't know.
But again, homegrown player, 23 years old, he because he's a homegrown player, it's not that you're not going to spend a ton of money on him. He doesn't hit the salary cap. I could understand him being on the team, but if he's back on this team in 2017, you need to see something from him. This is his year. He had this down year. It was horrible. Just like Jack McBean almost disappeared. He came back, so I'm not saying that you couldn't do it, but Jose Villarreal has to step up. Finally, we get to the last player on the roster right now, Gyasi Zardes.
Keep him.
Keep him. Yeah.
He's the target forward of the future, people. Imagine a team with Gyasi Zardes and Giovanni Dos Santos up there, right there in the final third. That is what you want to see in 2017.
Absolutely, and that's where you start building around your core. You have Gyasi Zardes.
Your spine is Gyasi Zardes, Giovanni Dos Santos, Sebastian Lletget, a DP midfielder, and Jelle Van Damme as your center back. That's your spine.
It's not...
Or build the spine.
That is what... And quite honestly, Wendy, I couldn't agree with you more. That is the spine. That is what the LA Galaxy should build around. I've heard rumors the LA Galaxy plan on getting younger. Yes, they will get younger just by jettisoning some of these older guys' contracts. I think...
It would be hard to get older.
It would. At one point, there was an average age of 31 years old in the second half for Colorado. You will get younger with these guys. You're going to get the playing time for the guys who deserve it. You're not just going to throw young players in there who don't deserve the minutes. Jack McBean is one of those guys. Ariel Lassiter is one of those guys. Raul Mendiola is one of those guys. You could see some defenders step up again, maybe like a Josh Turnley. There's some other defenders on the LA Galaxy, too, that could do it. Clement Diop will be the number 2. Whether or not that means that he plays down with the LA Galaxy 2 most of the time, again, that's fine. He's an excellent goalkeeper. He's probably the goalkeeper of the future. Do not spend money on an expensive goalkeeper. Keep Brian Rowe for what you have him for.
Yes. Keep Brian Rowe and Clement Diop, and you can bring in one of the Los. Bring in Eric Lopez. Bring in that. I mean, there's a couple. We have a couple of really good kids in our academy as goalkeepers that we could go to anytime.
So that's where it is. That's where it is. You're gonna see some favorites disappear. I'm telling you that right now. I know. I know it in my heart that some of these favorites.
Oh, please not AJ. Please not AJ. Please not AJ.
So somebody told me it would be a very bad PR move to dump AJ De La Garza when you have LAFC coming in next year, and I understand the statement on that.
Yeah,
exactly,
I get it.
Right? I get it. I understand but I don't think that Bruce worries about PR moves, to be honest with you. Now, people will argue that Robbie Rogers was a PR move for Mike McGee, but I honestly think that Bruce was looking for his wing. Bruce has this elusive winger, Wendy. He tries really hard to find the winger that's going to solve all of his problems. Christian Wilhelmsen was the closest I think he's ever gotten to finding that elusive, speedy winger that's going to unlock the defenses and all that. And Emmanuel Boateng may end up being that guy. But
Emmanuel Boateng, I was going to say Cristiano Ronaldo, but you know what? Emmanuel Boateng, you're right.
So Emmanuel they're almost the same player. So Emmanuel Boateng could be that guy. But I think whenever he got Robbie Rogers, that's what he was looking for. Now, granted, he turned him into a defender, which was a great move. But I think that's why that move got made, quite honestly. So I think
season, he was so mediocre this year. He really took a step down. He was honestly not as good a player this year as he was last year.
I would have started AJ. It's not even a question. That's the only thing that baffles me on end about Bruce and the selections. But did you hear what happened with RSL and Javier Morales?
Oh yeah.
Where basically they didn't, and real quick, they didn't extend him a contract offer, and basically it looks like they didn't let him play games, because if he would have gotten to 24 games this year, he would have had a guaranteed contract for next year, so they actually held him out. I hope to God that isn't the case with AJ De La Garza, where he had X number of games and that guaranteed a contract or something like that, because
I would hate that.
It's just too fishy for me with AJ not starting.
Not playing. I know,
Yeah,
it's
no.
so inexplicable.
That
It's
is
so strange.
That is total speculation on my part. I just connected those dots like today, and I don't believe it. But I just wanted to throw that out just in case you were even thinking it, that something possibly happened. But the LA Galaxy have a lot of rebuilding to do. Bruce Arena's going to be here. I don't think Robbie Keane and Steven Gerrard are going to be here, so you have two designated players.
Kind of exciting though. That's two new designated players. That's kind of like because you know the LA Galaxy are going to go out and try and get someone good.
Yeah, and they are. And I will say that I did attempt to, and this is me being speculative again. I did attempt to have Chris Klein come on the show, and he was not in town to come on the show. So however you want to put the dots together on that, he wasn't available.
Europe, maybe.
Maybe don't know. Maybe he's over there. Never know. But that's just so you know where I'm going and what I've been trying to do. I know I was off for 2 weeks on my honeymoon. I came back. You didn't think I was working. You didn't think I was doing stuff. I have been talking to
scouting
people.
players.
I was definitely, as long as they were in the cafe in Paris that I was in.
You went to London. You were checking out Arsenal and Chelsea players.
That's exactly what I was doing. I'm sure of it. In between glasses of champagne. So hey, it's all good. All right, Wendy. Anything else? I want to thank you obviously for all the hard work that you have done.
Josh. Oh no, it's a pleasure. I am. I feel actually okay because. Even though the season ended probably a little earlier than fans would have approved of, I feel a little invigorated at the prospect of 2017 with a younger team, with two new DPs, and with Ajal Van Dam coming back. I think 2017 could be a good season.
Yeah, you should be excited. And the expansion draft is coming up. We're going to do a show whenever that covers. Here, this is how our off season works. When there's stuff to talk about, Josh has a show. When there's not stuff to talk about, Josh doesn't have a show because he likes to have a little bit of time off. So that's sort of how it's going to work.
And you deserve it. I want to say something, which is that people who listen to the podcast have absolutely no idea how much work Josh puts into doing this show. He gets to games way early and he stays hours after the games are over in order to go and attend the press conference and interview these players, and you do it after every single game and before every single game, and no one ever thanks you for it, and it takes tons and tons of your time. And so I want you to know that I appreciate it. The people who listen appreciate it. I'm sure in their own way the LA Galaxy appreciates it, but it's definitely it is some pro bono work that you are doing for the LA Galaxy fan base.
Thank you, Wendy. Yes, I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it, and I love talking soccer, and I love doing the podcast. And like I said, we're always trying to get better and bigger here at Corner of the Galaxy. So expect in the off season that we'll have more to talk about, and we'll try to add some different things and have some fun with whether it's live shows or whether it's more video content. I'm really trying to do more video content in 2017, so you can keep an eye on for that. But yeah, there's going to be volunteer opportunities for everybody. If you love soccer as much as I do, as much as Wendy does, then we'd love to hear from you. You can go cornerofthegalaxy@gmail.com. Tell us that you want to be a writer, you want to do something for the LA Galaxy, you want to get more into this and learn what it takes to be a sports writer, somebody who covers the team. We'd be happy to talk to you. I'm always available for questions, so please do that. But before we end all this, I also need to thank a bunch of people at the LA Galaxy, because quite honestly, without them, we wouldn't have a show. We wouldn't be able to do any of this. So I'm gonna talk. Chris Glidden, Brendan Hannon, and Vicky Mercado are part of the PR department, and they're all amazing, wonderful people who have to deal with me, especially Chris Glidden, on an almost daily basis. So Chris, thank you for dealing with me. Brendan, Vicky, you guys are all awesome. You have Sarah Boykler, Jenny Jeffries, Chris Thomas, Brad Psyche, Chris Hibble, and Chris Klein, obviously. Some of those guys in there in the digital media team I sit right in front of in the press box. They're wonderful people to work with. They're wonderfully nice. Sarah has been my partner, basically, whenever we go do LA Galaxy 2 games, because she covers the LA Galaxy 2 for the LA Galaxy. So we spent a lot of time there. So she's awesome. A lot of people are just so amazing in what they do at the LA Galaxy, and it's not me kissing butt, so to speak. These people really are. Wendy, you heard me. You said it, that I spent all this time at the LA Galaxy, hours beforehand and hours afterwards. These are the people I spend time with whenever I do it, and they all work very hard. I know sometimes they don't get things 100% perfect for everybody. But they really do try, and they're wonderful people. So I want to thank all of them for all of their time. They're really seriously awesome people. So thank you, everybody there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we need to go over. Again, schedule for this show. Go to cornerofthegalaxy.com/live. The schedule is always down there. If we're going to do a show, you'll know about it. I will put it up on the schedule whenever we go. Other than that, you guys should enjoy the offseason a little bit. It's going to be quiet here for a little bit until right after MLS Cup, whenever the expansion draft and the protected lists come out. And then, we're going to sort of start to find out who's staying, who's going, who's protected, all sorts of fun stuff. So that's sort of what you want to keep an eye out for the rest of 2016. And then we'll move right into preseason. I mean, as soon as the holidays hit and, after the first of the year, preseason's basically ready to start. The LA Galaxy should report to preseason camp sometime at the end of January. You're going to have U.S. men's national team camp to keep an eye on with Jossie Zardes in a little bit earlier in January. So there's going to be lots of things that fill in as we go here at the end. I will continue to update you on Twitter, so if you want to follow stuff on Twitter, there will always be LA Galaxy Talk on our Twitter at Galaxy Podcast. And of course, go to the website. We're going to continue to have articles. If we have some information, we will do our best to share it with you. That's sort of how it works in the offseason. All right, Wendy, anything else you need to cover before we get out of here?
No, that is it.
All right, Wendy, you did an awesome job. Wendy's first, is this your first full year?
First full year. I did half a year last
That's right.
time. This is the first season, yeah.
Well, congrats. I'm glad that you survived and made it through with me.
I did survive.
All right, Wendy, where can people find you?
People can find me at American Soccer Now and Corner of the Galaxy and on Twitter at Barstool.
All right, if you're looking for me on Twitter, at Guesman is my personal one. That's where you can find all the honeymoon pictures and all that fun stuff that I did whenever I was traveling around if you wanted to. JGOOSS on Instagram for all those pictures as well, just in case you're interested. At Galaxy Podcast is our Twitter. At Galaxy Podcast is our Instagram. CornerOfTheGalaxy.com is where you can find all of our wonderful writings, all that fun stuff. All right, for Miss Wendy Thomas, I'm Josh Guesman. You've been listening to Corner of the Galaxy on CornerOfTheGalaxy.com. Have a great 2016, everybody. We'll be back when the news breaks.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. And for all of your independent LA Galaxy news, discussion, and entertainment, including this podcast, head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. Fans, thanks for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.